It is not restful to sit on the couch doing nothing, but also worrying about all the things that you were supposed to do and feeling guilty that you're not doing them. That is not restful.
Hey there, welcome to Unboxing It, a podcast by Lara Wellman and me, Rowan Knox. Each week we tackle societal ideas and expectations that can stop us from leading full and authentic lives. We're so glad you're joining us. Let's get started.
Welcome to Unboxing It. I'm Lara.
And I'm Rowan.
And today, Rowan, I'm wondering, are you okay?
No,
No.
I'm not okay. That's all right to say, right? No, am I okay enough to function? Yes. Am I okay overall? No. Who is right now?
Exactly. Who is right now? And so that's why today we're going to talk a little bit about why it's okay to not be okay. Because I don't think, generally speaking, we think it's okay to not be okay. And I will always remember having somebody react really negatively to that statement because they felt like it was giving people permission to give up. And instead, what I think it's okay to not be okay means is you don't have to pretend everything's okay. You get to still feel your feelings. You still get to just admit what's going on with you and figure out what comes next. It doesn't mean permission to crawl into a hole and never come out again.
This is built right into our society. I know because I make this exchange with people sometimes hundreds of times a day as a barista, right? People come into my coffee shop, I'm at the counter, and we ask each other how we are. And the correct response, societally speaking, is I'm doing well. How are you? I'm good. I'm great. Right? You're supposed to tell people you're doing well. That is the expectation. I've stopped doing that, by the way. If
Mhm.
I am doing well, I say it. And if I'm not, I say, I'm okay. Or it's been a bit of a day, but here I am, right? Or whatever. I will actually respond authentically, which I think has given them permission to respond to me authentically too. I've had some really lovely, short, but meaningful exchanges just by answering honestly.
And I don't know that I always answer honestly, but I've stopped saying good, right? How are you? I'm all right. That
Yeah.
generally means I'm coping. I think that's what that means, right? I'm moving through life. I am surviving. We are okay. Not to say everything is terrible all of the time, but there's a lot of times where there's a lot going on and I don't feel, quote unquote, good. So I'm not going to say it.
I don't know a lot of people who feel good right now. It's not like we haven't had problems in the world before. Of course, we've had problems. We've had tons of problems. But I think in our generation, at least, and you and I are Gen X, we did have things like the Cold War, and we've had wars, we've had upsets, we've had a lot of things, but we have lived in a relatively stable time. And now the world is descending into fascism. And again, I don't want to say that these things haven't happened in parts of the world. I'm just saying in Western society, in the last little while, it wasn't awful until
Mm-hmm.
now. Now it's awful. And we're Canadian. And right now, people can feel how they want to feel about our politics, but we do have a majority government right now that is not a fascist regime. So I'm happy about that. I feel that gives us some level of protection, but there's so much more happening. So, on top of our regular lives and all of the stressors that we all have to some extent, ailing parents, kids, friendship issues, relationship issues, chronic illnesses, all these different things that are going on, job security, whatever might be happening in our day to day lives, we also have this undercurrent of political upheaval that is frankly terrifying. There are parts of the world running out of fuel right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I don't know a single person who has just completely ignored all of that. Even if you try to just shut it off, it's there in the background. And frankly, not that I want to get too woo woo about this, but the energy is there. You can feel it in people. You can feel it when you're in a crowd. We know what's going on and we have that common understanding of it. And I think it is weighing a lot of us down.
For sure. I think it wasn't just at COVID because there were a few years before COVID where it wasn't fantastic, but I feel like since COVID in particular, there's just always something. There's always something stressful to ponder, to think what's going to happen next, to think what's going on. And there's a lot of people who have had COVID, who have long COVID, who are struggling with more health problems than they had before. There's just a lot. There's just a lot. And I think that if we pretend that there's not a lot, we're not doing ourselves any service. And I will say this because I also like to say to people, like, why are you being so negative? Right. So there's a balance between pretending everything's okay and only thinking about what's negative and focusing on the negative. I think that things can be not particularly okay, but you can still look for the positive side of things. And that's where I think this balance of saying I'm not okay doesn't mean I'm giving up, but it does acknowledge that things are not fantastic for me right now, right? That I am having a hard time. And it's easier to get support when you admit that to yourself and when the people around you know that's true.
And I think that some of us deal with some mental health issues that are pervasive and are activated. They flare up like any other kind of chronic illness, if you want to look at it that way. I do kind of look at my CPTSD and anxiety disorders, chronic illnesses. I've had them my whole life. I manage them like any other illness. I have tools at my disposal, but there are times when they really do flare up, like an autoimmune disorder or something like that, where there's a few days or a few weeks or a few months where it's particularly bad and it makes it harder to function. So, I don't need to explain what generalized anxiety disorder is, but it is basically that your anxiety is to a point where it really does affect your daily life. And it can take various forms. I've had it flip more towards OCD. I've had it flip more towards health anxiety or somatic health anxiety, somatic anxiety. So something's wrong with my body. I have to check all my symptoms. I've talked about that before. And then I also have CPTSD, which is complex post traumatic stress disorder. And that is brought on from what were years of trauma. So, repeated trauma. We know about PTSD, where PTSD is maybe you had one frightening, one really traumatic incident where you feared for your life, or a short burst of incidences inside of a short time. Say you were at war for a few months or whatever it might be, right? And then you develop PTSD. So it's like that, but it's more repeat traumatic events over time, usually spanning years. And so that's what I have had since childhood. And that is what I have to manage on a daily basis. Some days I barely notice it's there. And other days, something will happen and it throws my nervous system into chaos. It's gotten a lot better. I've done a lot of therapy for it, but the nervous system is the nervous system, and mine is constantly on higher alert than the average nervous system. And it is lately, I would say, on much higher alert. Some of that has to do with my own life, things that have happened in my own life over the last little while, including starting a new business and all of the stress that comes with that. But also just the world, right? It's hard to feel safe when it feels like we're in danger all the time, where things can just flip over into terrible at any moment. So, some of us who already have those issues, they get worse. And yet, I still have to function. I'm a business owner, so I can't just nope out, right? If I need to go to work, I have to go to work. I can't just call in sick. If I need to go run an errand, I have to go run an errand. It doesn't matter how I'm feeling. And that is not the best way to be, but it is something that I've had to tell myself so many times. It's okay that you don't feel 100% right now. It's okay that you don't feel great right now, but you still have to get this done. And there's a balance, right? Because I think we went from when we were younger, Lara, as Gen Xers, I think we went from, you don't talk about this stuff. You don't talk about your feelings. Mental health's not really a thing. People who had mental health issues, those are the people that got locked up in hospitals. That was a mental health issue. You can't function at all. Anybody else, just push through it. Just push through it and you'll be fine. And that was really unhealthy,
Hmm.
really unhealthy. But then we have the other side of things where I think pendulums swing, and I've watched this happen so many times in my life. The pendulum swings all the way over here, then it swings all the way to this other extreme, and then hopefully we land somewhere in the middle. I think we also went through the self-help era, which was great in its own way and problematic in its own way. But I had so many self-help books, and a lot of them basically taught me, like, no, you can't function at all. There was a time where it was like, no, if you have anxiety, you have anxiety. That's an illness. That's a disease. You just need to take time and not curl up in a ball, but it was like if you're having any kind of anxiety, like the messaging sometimes was like, you shouldn't work, you shouldn't go to school, you should just take 100% of your time and focus on that. And I think that can be in its own way at that extreme very unhealthy. I think a short time of that if needed, yes. But I've learned that I need to still function to some extent, but also be gentle with myself while I function.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the big distinction, right? To me, if I am not in the state where I can no longer function, right? Like those who are hospitalized because they cannot function, right? That's the extreme.
Yeah.
If I'm not that, then I must be okay, right? Like it's the internal, I must be okay. Therefore, I'm going to pretend I'm okay. I'm going to ignore that I'm not okay. I'm going to pretend that nothing else is going on, even though, but I have learned that if you do that, your body will catch up with you. I once went through a phase where I was like, why can I not turn my head to the left anymore? Like, at all. Why do I feel like my heart's about to beat out of my chest 24/7? And
Yeah.
there was so much stress that I was ignoring. And my body was like, you know what? If you're not going to listen to the other signals we've given you, we're going to raise the bar and make sure you have to.
Oh, the body will give out. It will absolutely give out. Yesterday, we tried to record this podcast episode and I couldn't do it. I was just having a really bad day. And I said, Lara, could we maybe just chat today? And I can offload some of this. I can share all of these stressors that I have going on in my life right now. And then we can reconvene tomorrow and record. And you were so gracious and you said, absolutely. And I'm in a much better headspace to do it because I gave myself the time. I actually took a day off yesterday. I didn't work. And I think that's what I needed. Because even though I love this podcast, I have to be on for it, right? I have to be thinking, I have to be activated in some way. And I just wasn't there. And so allowing ourselves some grace where we can, that's important. And that's why I still did what I needed to do. For example, it was my daughter's birthday yesterday. Danny and I took our kiddo out. We went to the movies. And was I feeling 100% in my head? No. But also, it was really important to see her for her birthday, right? So, of course, we were going to do that. So, that was a need that was going to happen. Podcasting wasn't a need. That was something that I could put off and do another day when I felt better. And so, functioning when you're not okay can look like that, where you make choices. It's like, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to do this. And that's what I often tell myself when I'm in those spaces. I make a list in my head of the things I need to do today or that I think I need to do today. And then I go, what do I actually need to do? What do I actually have the bandwidth for today? And if I don't have the bandwidth for it and it needs to get done, no question, then I'm going to have to find a way. Maybe I'm delegating, but I need to find a way to get that done. But I will not do the things that I don't need to do. And that's all right. That is just part of functioning when you're not 100%.
Yeah, and it's that all or nothing thing, right? I'm great or I'm non functional. Those are not the only two ways of being, but we often only allow ourselves those two options. So if I'm not falling apart, then I must be able to do everything as usual and go above and beyond at every moment because I am not having a nervous breakdown. But there's more to it than that. And part of the reason I thought this would be a good conversation is because I'm doing it to myself. Even when I have decided that it's okay to slow down, or I have made choices to slow down or to do something or to not do something, I find myself very quickly getting pulled back into, but I should, but I should, but I should. What will I do next? What is the sort of that rat racy feeling of I have to do more comes up from inside me with no permission from me to try to get me going again. And it's a bit of a fight internally for me to allow myself to find that middle ground.
Part of that can be the nervous system too. When the nervous system is activated, when it's in its vigilant state or it's watching for danger, it can be really hard to just rest. And I know this from personal experience where I will try to do something like watch a 15-minute YouTube video and I can't get through it without checking my phone because I can't pay attention up or I can't get through it while sitting. I have to get up and do something else. These are signs, we call that nervous energy. And that's exactly what it is. It is nervous energy. But paying attention to those signals, I've learned, is really important. So if I can't focus, I'm probably more anxious than I realize. If I can't sit, I'm probably more anxious than I realize. If I only can watch things, this is an interesting one. If I can only watch things that have a lot of action or a lot of danger, that is often my nervous system wanting to stay activated,
Mm-hmm.
which I never realized before. Like, I love horror movies, love them. And I mean, they're fun. Lots of people love horror movies,
Not
but
me.
okay, not you. A lot of people love them, and I am a big fan. But there are times when I can't watch anything but horror movies because my nervous system is like, stay vigilant, stay alert, stay alert. This will keep us focused, okay? Because this is going to keep us in the state. And if we don't watch this, if we watch something that's calmer, even if it's interesting, I can't stay interested. So that's a signal for me too. There are things that I do, somatic exercises that I do that help my nervous system calm down. And so when I notice that stuff is happening, I actually do the exercises first because then I can actually focus. The nervous system is weird, and that's another thing that I don't think we always realize is that the nervous system doesn't respond to talking very much. It's too old for that. It's like the oldest part of our body in terms of development. It's the one that runs on instinct the most. And so it needs physical signs that we're safe. So sighing and deep breaths and gentle massages that you can do. And you can look these up. We can put links actually because I have a bunch of them, but there are like ear massages you can do that are really gentle that hit the vagus nerve. There are eye exercises that you can do where you tilt your head and you kind of look up, and that will calm the nervous system in a lot of people. This isn't me giving therapy advice. It's just me letting you know what works for me. I can't give therapy advice. I'm not a therapist, but these are things that I've learned over time saved me a lot of those heart palpitations and just like shallow breaths, that nervousness that I can't sleep and I can't sit. I do that instead. And doing those things to let myself know, hey, it's okay. We're safe. We can just step down a little bit and relax. That will allow me to get through my day a little better.
Yeah. And I think it's really a good idea to learn to do that because for me, I will often not have the energy to do things. But if I don't calm my nervous system, if I don't really let myself rest, because there's a difference between not doing anything and rest that is restorative. It is not restful to sit on the couch doing nothing, but also worrying about all the things that you were supposed to do and feeling guilty that you're not doing them. That is not restful. You just collapsed and you're feeling terrible about it, and you're not allowing yourself any room to be okay with that happening. You're just like, I need to rest. I need to be here as short an amount of time as I can so that I can start going again, versus truly letting yourself find rest. And I think most of us have no idea how to do that easily.
You know what else isn't restful? Is arguing with people on the internet while you sit on the couch drinking coffee, because I did that today. That is a big cue for me that I'm not okay, is that I will seek out that kind of negative engagement. Somebody was being really transphobic with me and using religion as their reason for being transphobic, which does not fly with me whatsoever. And I engaged, and I don't normally engage. And then I sat there and I refreshed, waiting for his response. And then he would respond, and then I would engage again. Right? And every time I do that, that's a nervous system activation, right? Every time I do that, I'm going into this hyper vigilant, stressful altercation. Because even though I know bro is in another country and he would never say these things to my face, and even if he did, I would be able to handle it no problem. In my body, my body's like, danger, 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 attack, attack, danger, right? So I'm not resting. And I seek these things out when I'm really not okay. Like I know I do that. Like, okay, yeah, he came to find me. He came to my house basically, and he knocked on the door, proverbially, and he wanted to have that altercation. But and did I put him in his place? Of course I put him in his place. Did I talk circles around him? Of course I talked circles around him. And did I feel a little morally superior after? Yes. But did I feel calmer? No. I didn't feel calmer. I felt more activated, right?
Hmm.
I need to learn to see these signs earlier, because then I make myself even less okay than I was before. Right? Why? And did it teach him anything? No, of course it didn't teach him anything. Is he still going to be terrible to people? Of course he is. It did not help. I am pretty sure he wasn't a bot. I've argued with bots before, and then I kick myself because I'm like, that was not a real person. I think this was genuinely a real person, but it doesn't matter. He doesn't care. But also, I'm not going to beat myself up over it. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to let it go, because beating myself up over it is just going to make it even harder for me. So I'm going to recognize that was a symptom of me not being at my best. I do have to be at my best. After I do this podcast, I have to go give a talk, and then I have to go to work for a few hours and be amongst people, be amongst human beings, and treat them well and make them good coffee and pour them good wine. So I have to do this. So yeah, I can't be taking on the world. I can't be expending my limited, especially lately, time and energy on things that I don't need to be spending it on, that bring me no joy and no peace. Because isn't that the trick, right? When we have those free moments, finding things that bring us joy and or peace is paramount.
Yeah. And like so many of the things we talk about, the thing I hope people take away from this conversation is that they can start to notice when they're not allowing themselves to be okay, when they are trying to push through things when they don't have to, right? It's the little things, not some kind of, well, change everything about how you react to stress from now on. Like, that is not what we're saying. It's very much just, if you find yourself trying to push when you don't need to and when you feel terrible, like maybe once or twice, don't, and see how it goes. Like, start to allow yourself the freedom to not be productive all the time if you don't need to be, to really figure out what is restful for you and do that. And that's why I think it's okay to say it's okay, you're not okay, so that you have the freedom to do that, right? If you don't let yourself be not okay, then you're not going to take the time for these things because you think you're okay. And when you can allow yourself access to what's not working, you can also allow yourself access to things that will help.
Kindness, gentleness, and love.
Hmm.
I think those are the three words I remind myself the most, the three actions that I take. Love is an action, kindness as an action, gentleness is an action when I approach myself in the moments where I'm not at my best, and I would normally kick myself for it. Instead, I go, how would I treat somebody else that I love with the same feelings I'm having right now? And I always think to myself, I would treat them kindly and gently, right? Take care of them. So it's not about making these sweeping changes, like you were saying. Change often comes gradually. It comes in these little steps where maybe we choose a different thing this time. And maybe the next 4 or 5 times we don't choose that, we forget to, or it just doesn't register that we should be doing that. And then we remember again, then we do it. And then maybe we add something else. Maybe there's another action that we can take. And it's also gentle and it's kind. Patience too, right? Patience. We are hardest on ourselves when we're not okay, for sure. And that serves no purpose. I often think we speak to ourselves, our inner critic is often repeating things we were told when we were younger by someone in our lives that really stuck with us, right? That you need to be productive. You can't just sit there. You can't just sit there like a remember the term bump on a log? Because I do.
Yeah.
Like a bump on the log, you know, and do nothing, or you got to try harder, or what are you stupid? What's wrong with you? Like anytime my inner critic goes, I go, at one point, somebody said these things to me. And at one point, I internalized them as the way I should be speaking to myself and as the way that's like my life manager now. Well, that's a shitty life manager. That's a toxic life manager. So I try really hard now to approach myself with kindness, gentleness, and love.
Yeah. And I'll say this, I think a lot of us grew up thinking gentle doesn't work, right? Gentle is not the way to do things. I remember gentle parenting coming in and people being like, ha ha, those people are kooky and that's never going to work. And I think there's a lot of, and I still see it in some places, we need to whip them into shape. Like the gentleness does not work. But I think they're wrong. Gentleness can work and it can make a difference and it can create change and it can be curative. And so if you think I just need to whip myself into shape, I just need to stop letting myself feel sorry for myself, I just need to, then a little gentleness and coming at it from a different direction can make a big difference.
Yeah, and look, mindset shifts are great, right? We talked about that. There's also ways to look at our lives that are not really negative. One of the worst people I ever knew taught me something that was really positive that I kept with me. So go figure. But they said to me, don't say I have to, say I get to.
Mhm.
Now, that doesn't work all the time, right?
Or
Like,
I want to.
or I want to, right? And I get to resonates with me better because it reminds me, it's like, oh, I have to go to work. No, I get to go to work. I get to go to work because I have employment, because my body allows me to go to work, because whatever it might be, right? Or like, it sounds ridiculous, but like, I get to take out the trash, right? But that's because today my back is not so sore that I'm able to take out the trash. Or like, I get to make dinner. Like, I actually have food that I'm able to cook with, right? So I use it that way. And it has changed my mindset a bit. And that does lift me out sometimes of a funk. Like it really does pick me up a bit. I don't think mindset gets you out of every mental health issue that you have though. Like again,
No.
I don't think that's going to cure my nervous system of CPTSD. But does it help sometimes that I remember that I have a lot to be grateful for? Yeah, it does. I mean, when I've been depressed in the past, it certainly hasn't cured my depression.
Mhm.
Just going for a walk hasn't cured my depression, but I will say, whenever I'm in a bad state of mind, if I can manage to get out for a walk, it usually helps me, right? It's
Mhm.
not the cure, but it does pick me up a bit. So I think there's like these little nuances where we can exist in that space of not really totally being okay, but also finding things that work for us that help us be a little more okay.
Yeah. And as much as I have a bunch of days where I don't feel okay, I also feel like I will be okay. And I also feel
Mm,
like I can keep going to a certain extent. And again, it's just a balance. It's trying to figure out where in the middle do I want to be on any given day, because the two extremes are, I'm not like fantastic, and that's just true. And I don't want to have a nervous breakdown. Where in the middle will I land and accept that I am?
it's lovely. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't want this episode to come off as depressing, but I
Mm-hmm.
just think it comes off as real. A lot of us are dealing with stuff and we're looking for like the cure. I remember when I started listening to a happiness podcast, and it was like, this is the secret to happiness, right? And it has some really good stuff, like some science backed, really good stuff. It was fantastic, but it didn't make me happy all the time. Nor have I realized I can be happy all the time, because if I'm happy all the time, is that even really happiness, right? Happy has to have something to compare itself to. Joy has to have something to compare itself to. I can't just stay in those states perpetually. And so what I try to do is practice contentment, being content with what I have in the moment. And that can have various degrees, right? Whereas I think happiness doesn't have various degrees for me. It's like, I'm happy. I can tell, like, that's a big feeling. And
Mm-hmm.
joy is a big feeling. And the two of them are kind of related for me, right? There's sometimes hard to tease apart what's what. But I think that content can exist even if I'm not feeling perfect about things. I'm like, I am content where I am right now. Even if it is imperfect, I am grateful for what I have. I will keep working on things, but I'm definitely good with where I am in this moment, because it's very much a moment thing for me too. So it isn't about being negative and it isn't about being extremely positive. It just is about being human.
Yeah. And if you're feeling not okay, that doesn't mean you're failing at life. And that's how it can feel to a lot of people, right? That if you're not okay, then you've failed. And failure is very scary to a lot of people. That's what I hoped people would take away from this, is it's okay to have different feelings. It's okay to figure out what's true, and that you're going to be able to make things more okay the more real you are with yourself.
Yeah. And if you ever come to my coffee shop, it's okay to tell me that you're having a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
I just think we need to be more realistic with each other. Let's just be a little bit more honest. Doesn't mean we have to offload every single problem we're having to a complete stranger, although sometimes that does happen and the person's receptive and you end up having an amazing talk. I've actually weirdly, I hate bringing it back to my coffee shop, but I've seen this happen with complete strangers in my coffee shop, either with me or with somebody else. And they're just sitting at the harvest table and they just end up having these talks with each other and sharing how they're feeling. But it's okay to show up as you are. Please just show up as you are. You are worthy no matter what you're going through right now. Just be honest with yourself, and it's okay to be honest with other people too.
And that's what we have to say about that.
This feels like a PSA now. I vow today to help myself feel a little better that I will not continue to argue with people on the internet. In fact, instead, I will make myself a sandwich after we're done recording, and I will get on with my beautiful day.
I love it. I love it. Thank you all for being here with us today. We will see you again in 2 weeks. Please keep telling other people about the podcast. We're getting some momentum. We love you being here. And that's it. We'll talk to you again soon.
Stay awesome. Thank you for listening to Unboxing It. We're so glad you did. If you like what you heard and you want to help us keep making episodes, please leave us a rating wherever you heard this one. You can also subscribe to the Unboxing It Substack to get access to all of the latest news and some special bonus content. And hey, truly, don't forget to find some moments of joy today. You deserve them. Take care out there, and we'll see you next time.